All right, in this video, we're going to go over some things about adding support columns and correcting the foundation, specifically around the garage, which would not have open structure underneath it. So we've got kind of two things going on here. So I do have a file that goes with this that you should have downloaded prior to starting this video. If not, go ahead and pause the video, go back to Schoology and download the file and open it. Okay, as you can see, that's where I'm starting. This is the floor plan that you've been given, with the garage area as the only enclosed area. The rest of this, just consider the rest of the house. If you open the foundation level, you will see that you have your foundation wall and your footer are already in. So all that is already in. So what we're going to be doing is working mostly in the foundation level, and we're going to be modifying it so that we can put in the uh, the correct foundation wall and footer to enclose the garage area. Because remember, areas that are not don't have space underneath that are a complete fill will have the footer and foundation wall enclosing them. They will be filled with something depending on what's available or what's used by code there before the concrete is poured for that garage area. In the rest of the house, a lot of this will be some open space. And we will have to put, because what would happen, especially in a house of this shape, is that you would likely have a beam that runs down the middle, and we're going to then support that beam with columns, and that's what we're going to put in. All right. So to start that, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to go to my view range and actually set it so that my cut plane is above this level, is above the ground level. So if I set it at 4 feet, I should be able to see all of the walls, which I can now do. And as you can see, some of the walls don't line up great. So and we'll actually do the garage foundation first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick a wall and do the regular um, foundation wall to do under this wall here. So I'm going to have it be wall center line. I am going to set it so that the top constraint is ground level. I am then going to set it so that the base offset is 0. And when I hit apply, top constraint is invalid for this level. Let's try that again. Interesting. So when I drew this, it was just fine for that to be the top constraint. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm actually going to go ahead and draw the walls in, and then I'll adjust them after the fact. So using wall center line, I'm going to go ahead and put a from here all the way to the end. I'm going to go ahead and put that wall in. Then I'm actually going to change to finish face exterior. I'm just going to be guessing, because what I want to do is I want to line it up with this foundation wall here. So I'm going to click here. Yay, that did work. So I should be able to use finish face exterior and come up and click to merge those together. All right, so that's my foundation wall. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually look at it in my 3D view. And I'm going to see that the foundation walls are not where they're supposed to be. So I'm going to click each one and get both of those highlighted. Tell the top constraint to go up to ground level and apply. So they now go up to the ground level. And I'm going to tell their base offset to be 0 and apply. So now I get actual foundation wall in there. It's weird that I had to do that separately, but that's okay. You'll also notice that since I added wall underneath floor that was already there, I do need to click on the floor. We've done this before. And I need to hit edit boundary, and I need to accept it. And I've already said yes to that whole like cut things that are touching the bottom of it. So we should be good there. The next thing I'm going to do, sorry, kind of flipped it around weird, is I'm going to go back to my foundation level. You can see that those are blending in. I'm going to go ahead and go to wall, I'm going to go to the footing, and I am going to set my base offset to -1. It goes down 1. And I'm going to go ahead and draw these in. Oh, that's picking the wrong thing. I want to do these on a wall center line. So I am going to, you know what? I'm going to do this the easier way. There's several walls that are in the way currently. So I'm going to go back to my view range, being that 1.5 or 2 feet above. So I just see the foundation wall because that makes this a lot easier. So back to wall, got the footing. Come here, come down to center line there. And that way I should be able to come down to right there. And it does blend in automatically. You may sometimes need to use the blending tool. But what that'll do is that'll give you the legitimate garage foundation look that you were looking for. Now, as we go into our support pieces, we're going to look at things. So as you can see, the majority of the house, I've got the long direction running this way. So that's where I would have a long beam that would help to hold the floor up that runs this way as well. And based on that, it would likely be centered between these two foundation walls. So the first thing I'm going to do is if I use my measure tool, I can measure between this reference and come straight down to this reference. And you'll see it's at 29, 2.5 inches, or basically almost 30 feet. Okay, so 29, 2.5. I'm just going to remember that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a model line. Now, actually, before this, I do need to go to Visibility and Graphics, click Edit, and this window will come up, and I do need to turn on lines. So they're in alphabetical order, so go down and turn on lines as well. And if you haven't already done so, make sure columns are also checkmarked so you can see both of those. Then I'll go to my model line, and what I'm going to do is I am going to from here, draw a straight line all the way across here, which is good. And then when I click modify, I can click on this line and I'll get a reference to the inside here. Okay. So it's telling me right now that this is 15, 7 and change. This is 12, 6 and change. So I'm going to want to even these out. So if I take my 29 and cut it in half, that would give me 14.5 feet plus the 2 inches. I'm going to try 14 feet 7 inches. That gives me 13.7 over here. So I'm off by about 6 inches. So I'm going to try 14 feet 1 inch. I got 14.1 and 14.1.5. So to make that even, I'm going to do 14.1, 14 and 1.25, 14, 1.25. So I've now got that line centered, which is exactly what I want. Now, what you will see, and we have to kind of measure and double check, is we want to make sure that our spans are greater than 15 feet, which they are. Okay. And this is right about 20 feet. So it may be arguable as to whether or not we need a post here. The argument could be made that we didn't, but just for practicing, we're going to go ahead and put one there. So the setup will be that we will need to get a wall. It will be a footing. It'll be a regular footing, just like we've done before. And what I'm going to do is I am going to make sure I'm on wall center line. And I am going to click and I am going to draw 3 feet. Okay. Now, I can also measure the length of this line. And as you can see, the line length is 85 and 6 inches. So if I divide 85 by 15, because when I'm placing posts, I want to place them every 15 feet. So I divide 85 by 15, and I get, let's see, 3 for 45, one more for 60. I can get 75 with 5 posts. Yes. Yeah. I can get, with 5 posts, I get 75 feet. That leaves me 10 feet as a remainder. All right. So I can actually add, since it doesn't make them more than 20, um, I can actually add on. So it should be like 20 feet from one, 20 feet from the other. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to put this at 20 feet. The nice part is I can come back and adjust this. What I'm now going to do is on this um, piece, I'm going to put a column. And I am going to actually, what I have to do is I have to say architectural column architectural, because that's where I have the rectangular columns. Go ahead and get your 18 by 18 and go ahead and put it in the center. And you can find that midpoint of that, which works perfectly. I'm going to click the column and I am going to make sure that the top level is at ground level. The top offset is at 6 inches. And then the base offset is at foundation, and that is just fine. Okay. So that's perfect. So what'll happen is I have that set up, and if I look in my 3D view, I don't see, oh, I'm sorry, that should be, see how it's sticking up? That should be a negative 6 inches. So I want it to go down 6 inches so I don't see it sticking up in my floor or sticking up out of my floor. Sorry, negative 6 inches. Pi. It does not want to change. So we're going to go ahead and try typing the number, negative 6 inches again. Let's go back to our foundation. Maybe it has something to do with my view. Negative 6. Enter. I'm going to highlight the whole thing. Negative 6 inches, enter. It didn't like me putting the negative sign just below the 6, or just in front of the 6. So now you'll see that I can't see it. It pokes into the floor, but not up through it, which is perfect. Okay. I'm going to double check my measurement here because something just looks off. So we're going to double check our measurement, and we're going to go from here to here. Nope, I think that's good. All right, so then we're going to highlight this. And what we can do is we can do what's called an array. And what we can do is we can click on any point on our grouping there, and we can pull out and we can set it at 15 feet, either by clicking or by typing. And I can up it, so that makes 2 copies. If I push 3, it makes a 3rd copy. If I click on it, 4, it makes a 4th copy. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and accept it. And I'm going to grab my measure tool, and I'm going to measure from this over is at 16. So as you can see, my math was just a little bit off when I placed the original. So I got 16 and a half that way. And then I've got 21 that way. So what I can do is I can move these over. Sorry, that was not the right one. I can, let's see here. So if I highlight all of these, I should be able to move them. And I just grab a point, a reference point. Sure. And seeing what the difference was, I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it I'm going to move everything 2 feet this way. So now when I measure, I go from this edge to the foundation wall, I'm at 19. And on the other side, from this one to there, I'm at 18.6.5. So as you can see, I can then go ahead and I can highlight the whole group. I can click move. I can click my reference point and go in the direction I want to go in. And actually all I need to do is move it about 3 inches. So I can type in 3 inches and press enter. That'll scoot everything over and I'd be able to measure this again. Now, if you don't want this line, you can right click on it and you can just hide that in the view. That way, if you do need to do some more laying out, you can. One of the other things is I would need some support over in this area. So if I highlight one of these, copy it, click off, paste it, I can position this in such a way that I can also move this around and locate it. It might have been easier to actually use some model lines and locate this so that it's about centered in here near the outside. But based on the size of this area, we would need to support this in the center. So after looking at everything, I would put it near the outside here. And what I would do is I would use a model line from the midpoint straight out. I'm going to actually make it longer than I need it. I'm going to go ahead and move this. I'm going to click this line. I'm going to make it 18 feet. Move it back to the midpoint of that line. I don't know why it came off. And then if I pick it up by this center point here, actually put the center point right on the end. There we go. And get that right about in the right spot. And again, I can then hide and view element so I can hide those individually. I don't need to do those over here because they are close enough. And then with this point, we're good there. So this will do it. So I should see something like this turned in for your activity.